It's not the first time the media declared the former president finally done. There was the John McCain is not a war hero comment, or when he skipped the Fox News debate in 2016. Then he said they grab him by the blank remark on the tape. Then there was Sharpiegate. Let's not forget the first impeachment, or a suggestion people should drink bleach to cure COVID. Of course, we have January 6th, followed by his second impeachment, and lately his failures in getting candidates across the finish line that we just talked about. Let's be honest, there are probably 300 other examples of the media declaring the end of Donald Trump politically that I have forgotten. The media loves to predict Trump's demise. It just hasn't happened yet. Colby Hall is here, founding editor at Mediaite, on balance, resident philosopher. I guess they'll be right sometime.
I mean, you try hard enough. I mean, he's Rasputin. You can't kill him. You know, it's funny because I think what clearly is happening here is that in the midterm issue, there's a lot of schadenfreude, taking pleasure in the misfortune of others. And, you know, we've been hearing for 5 years, as you just laid out, that the walls are closing in on Trump, and he's finally, this is going to be the end of his political career. I think the media is sort of doing him a favor right now by setting very low expectations and relishing the fact that he didn't have as good a day on the midterms as he was expecting. Does this mean that he's done so? I don't think so. Of course not. And in fact, I think that he's still, even though DeSantis is in a very good spot and had a great day yesterday, you got to say that Trump still has the MAGA rally base, and DeSantis does not.
Yeah, well, there is a cult of personality. There is a certain percentage of people in the Republican Party, especially, who are devoted to Donald Trump. You can't take that away from him. Meghan McCain certainly would hope that you could. Daily Mail op-ed. There is a simple and easy conclusion to draw from this. Trump's MAGA is cancer and is killing my party, and this should be the final nail in his coffin. Okay, thank you, Meghan, for your thoughts. The flip side of that, though, is the media can't quit him. You know, Joe Scarborough would much rather talk about Donald Trump. CNN would much rather talk about Donald Trump. Fox News, everybody would rather talk about Donald Trump because he rates, he sells books. 4,500 English language books about Trump have been published since he took office. I don't know how that compares to Harry Truman or Dwight Eisenhower or Lyndon Johnson or Gerald Ford, but you could probably combine them all.
You absolutely could. I mean, I edit Mediaite.com, and every morning when he says something on Truth Social, not everything, but when he says something like today, for example, he said that, you know, it was a somewhat disappointing day, but then he claimed victory for the wins that he predicted. I knew that if we covered that with the right headline, it would get a lot of traffic, and of course that it did. Now, I mean, this is because Trump is less a politician or a policy guy and more of a self-promoter, sort of media personality, and I think he sort of has broken the mold for others. I mean, I think Kari Lake is really more of that mold, for example, as a media personality and less someone who's really fluent in policy. I think why DeSantis has done well with the GOP is that he sort of strikes both balances. But absolutely, I mean, I think, you know, again, media loves to promote him because he's good for business, perhaps evidenced by even our talking about him right now.
Fair point. We will not say that we won't chase ratings either. It does happen in this business, something we all enjoy.
Who among us?
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Fair point. I got 30 seconds. I just wanted to get you on this. What do you make of the fact that for all of the hand-wringing, that the election deniers are coming and elections are going to be contested and nobody will concede and on and on and on and on? We just haven't seen it. 22 hours in, the people who have lost have conceded. The people who've won have won. Nobody's threatening lawsuits. Oz in Pennsylvania is not going crazy. Like, this just didn't materialize. Does the certain group of political punditry and anchors owe us all an apology? And you and I talked, all the poll workers that were allegedly going to get shot and killed because of these armed bandits traveling America for election integrity issues and were threats to democracy, didn't do anything either.
It turns out that democracy did not die overnight. So for that, we should all be. And by the way, I think it is a big story. I mean, it's still early. There could be some denialism to come, but no less, I think, than what we've seen since 2020.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.